This week in games, let's talk about PlayStation buying Fromsoftware, developing a new handheld console, and Troy Baker is going to be in Neil Druckmann's next game. Surprise! This is the Two Penny Gamescast. What's poppin', players? Welcome back to the Two Penny Gamescast, episode 227?
Yeah.
27. I am your host, Tavin Bothel, here with my good friend and co-host. Say hello to the people, Connor Elliott.
I've always got the episode count locked down. That's because I'm the true mastermind behind the Two Pennies Gamescast.
I mean, at this point, yeah. So, it is what it is. You write the stories, and if you choose stories that I don't know what the fuck we're talking about, then that's what they are. You know what I'm saying?
Well, thankfully this week I didn't really have many stories to choose from. In fact, I missed the big one when I was writing them, and so I didn't write the cool one.
Well, I mean that's a failure on you, not.
Of course.
I mean, the stories I think are fine.
Yeah, but
we honestly we probably could have found better ones.
It's a slow week. Trust me. A lot of it was like Black Friday sales. Everyone's obsessed with Black Friday sales.
We don't need Friday sale.
Yeah.
We don't need. Anyways, Connor, how's your week going?
Good, because I don't have a job. I don't have to do anything. I don't. Well, I do, but not really in a way that makes you not want to wake up that morning. Which is to say,
I don't think you've woken up before noon any day this week.
No, and that'll need to change at some point.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
This is fucking ridiculous. I'm halfway through my day and you just now get up. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
Go to your job.
Yeah. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Two Penny Gamescast. Each week, me and Connor come to you with the nerdy news you need to know concerning the video game industry. We each come to you with two topics, two pennies, if you will, and we give you our 2 cents on them. Reminder, next week is the return of the Two Penny Game Club. We will be playing Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. Still time to play it alongside with us, so make sure you prep that. Go play it. Come back next week and watch our review and let us know how it would rank amongst the other games that we've ranked in the series. I'm excited to play it.
Yeah, I know you are.
I haven't started yet. Neither of you. Nobody has started it yet because we are all so good at our jobs, so good at them. Anyways, but yeah, no, we're gonna be working our way through that this next week. So make sure you tune in for that review. I'm very excited to get to it, to talk about it, and all of its greatness. New number 1 incoming.
No, I can't say that. I played it, gameplay wise.
New
I've
top
experienced
5.
it.
New top 5. Easily a new top 5.
We'll see.
Easily a new top 5.
I will say, on the record, Metal Gear Solid 1's rated way too high. By you and Phil.
Play it again and you'll be with us. Because Phil played it the second time and he was like, you know what, this game's pretty good. And I'm like, yeah, it is. Go play it again.
Well,
you ain't got nothing else going on. Get that refresher.
I have other things going on.
All the crazy things that happened in Metal Gear Solid 1. Do you remember all the crazy things that happened?
Not that crazy.
Yeah. Psycho Mantis.
Not that crazy.
Cyborg Ninja.
It was crazy for 1999.
Who's Meryl's dad?
Meryl's dad's the fucking guy who's sending you on your mission.
Yeah.
Wait, I thought it was like his uncle.
That's the cover story. But I think this is a piece of lore that isn't in the original game. I think it was. I think it might have been inserted into Twin Snakes, but they talk about it in 4.
Oh,
big thing. So.
Retconning, huh?
Yeah.
Bad storytelling.
Well, listen. Listen. Just wait. Anyway.
No, that's not a good thing.
It's not. Where was I going with that? Anyways, this is the Two Penny Gamescast. You can catch this show every Tuesday, 8 a.m. Central Time, youtube.com/@2pennygames, and mainstream podcast services of your choice. Of course, you can watch the show live over at twitch.tv/2pennygames every Monday afternoon/evening, where we record all of our podcasts live over at twitch.tv/2pennygames. So make sure you head over there, drop a follow, come say hi to us in the live chat, just like how Mr. Einkuhn earlier was giving us technical advice because our microphones weren't working, and we discovered that along the way. So thank you, Mr. Einkuhn, for that. And you could also help us discover all of our technical issues, of which there are plenty, if you hopped over and saw us live over on Twitch. So go do that. Make sure you like, subscribe, and drop a comment. I do want to pull up, Connor. We had quite a few comments over the last week, many of which were about Mass Effect, but I believe there were even some that were about Fromsoftware. And I thought I had them prepared, but I clearly don't. So on the video, how to make the Game Awards better. Mokshitsati 7248 says, brother, Elden Ring is already Game of the Year. That's the issue. And Shadow of the Erdtree is an expansion of the same Game of the Year, which already makes it a Game of the Year. You're kind of talking in circles a little bit, buddy, but I appreciate the input. So, thank you.
It is technically Game of the Year.
It is technically a Game of the Year. I also saw a lot of great input on our Mass Effect fan casting. A lot of people throwing in some suggestions, some people that they thought might do well. One that I'm surprised Phil didn't say, Henry Cavill as a male Shepard.
I almost did that.
Almost did that?
Yeah.
That's I don't hate that pick, but no.
Because your guy needs
my pick for Shepard was perfect.
I didn't mention that because, well, you kind of describe yourself as the Mass Effect fan, right? And yet, the passion just wasn't there when it came to deciding a character for both female and male Shepard. Both me and Phil did it, but you just couldn't be bothered.
Because I made a choice.
No, it's because you made a bad choice.
I made a choice.
Fan choice. You can't call yourself a fan.
Made
but you don't have
choice.
both dichotomy
male
of male
Shepard
and
is
female.
boring as shit. Nobody fucking likes him. I don't understand why anybody, in comparison, I don't understand. Jennifer Hale, the queen of voice acting. All right?
Yeah.
The queen of voice acting.
Well,
right fucking there. And you want some fucking bozo.
Prolific. Most prolific.
Oh, I'm Commander Shepard, and this is my favorite store on the
Tavin,
Citadel.
you missed the point, because we're talking about fan casts, not video game characters, but fan casts, and it could be either man or woman. That's the beauty of that character. It's who the best is. And you couldn't even be bothered.
I made a choice. I know who the best is.
You couldn't be bothered to expound upon it.
I know who the best is. Why would I expand upon it? Why would I give another option? Yeah. We have the best option. Go check it out, youtube.com/@2pennygames to see our Mass Effect fan casting and understand all of the things that we're talking about. Also, hopefully, we will be making a triumphant return to TikTok this week. We haven't posted TikTok in like a month. We've been very busy with our lives. Well, some of us have been busy with our lives. And so we have been neglecting on that. So we're going to get back into that. So make sure you follow us on TikTok. Subscribe to us on the YouTube for the YouTube shorts and all of the above. And let us know what you would like us to talk about next week down in the comments below. Connor, we move on to the first topic of the day, your first penny of the day. Take it away, my friend.
For this first penny, we have an article from Reuters. Exclusive. Sony is in talks to buy media powerhouse behind Elden Ring. This is by Anirban Sen and Sam Nussey. Beats me. I didn't imagine that.
Okay.
Sony is in talks to acquire Kadokawa, the Japanese media powerhouse behind the Elden Ring game, two sources familiar with the matter said, as the technology giant looks to add to its entertainment portfolio. The talks between the two sides are ongoing, and if successful, a deal could be signed in the coming weeks, the sources said. Kadokawa's shares closed up 23% at their daily limit. Its market capitalization was around $2.7 billion prior to the Reuters report. Sony's shares closed up to 0.6%. Sony declined to comment. Kadokawa said it cannot comment. Sony already has a 2% stake in Kadokawa and a stake in Kadokawa-controlled Fromsoftware, the developer of the hit fantasy action role-playing game. The critically acclaimed title is a collaboration between veteran game director Hidetaka Miyazaki and Game of Thrones author George R.R. Martin. The game, which depicts an atmospheric world where players battle monsters and quests to repair the Elden Ring, has sold 25 million units and has been widely praised. The title is available on platforms. Okay, yeah, Elden Ring's big. Go back up. Kadokawa began as a publisher in 1945, but has expanded into games, anime, events, and figures with franchises such as ReZero, in which a teenage boy is summoned to a fantasy world. Good show. Other franchises include Delicious in Dungeon, also good show in manga. A manga series adapted into an anime about adventurers exploring dungeons and eating monsters they encounter. Known as the inventor of the Walkman, Sony has transformed from an electronics manufacturer. Sony's big. Technology big. Sony's focus includes anime, whose growth worldwide has been fueled by the spread of streaming services and greater familiarity with Japanese culture. The group has also had success in extending the reach of its own franchises, with the Last of Us game series adapted into a popular HBO drama. Sony, which has a market valuation of $114 billion, in January scrapped the $10 billion merger of its Indian arm with Z Entertainment Enterprises, saying some conditions were not met. Kadokawa's business has been buffeted in recent years. In June, it was hit by a cyber attack that resulted in a data leak and affected business activities. 2 years ago, Sugihiko Kadokawa, the son of the company's founder, resigned as chairman after he was indicted on bribery charges related to the Tokyo Olympics. So basically, we're getting more acquisitions. At least the winds are kind of shifting in that direction, which we've kind of seen.
I don't know why I'm all the way over there all of a sudden.
Moving so much.
I guess.
But in recent years, we've had some big acquisitions, like from Activision Blizzard being the most notable one, being acquired by Microsoft. And following it, we had lots of layoffs occur. We recently had layoffs hit Microsoft. How many was it again? It was like fucking...
A lot.
It was a lot. I want to say 600, but I might be overestimating. Point is, people aren't really happy about this from everything I've seen, because we're kind of in a period where, we don't really want this much consolidation in the industry. Sony itself recently canceled Firewalk Studios after one failure, a failure that could have been kind of caused by them due to the fact that they want to break into the live service market. And so what they exactly want for companies like Kadokawa might not prove so beneficial, because, Elden Ring, Fromsoftware itself, to get on the game side of thing, they've been giving a lot of creative freedom to do as they see fit, and Kadokawa hasn't really breached on that at all. Kadokawa might have had their own issues, but it's more than just the brand of Kadokawa. It's everything that goes underneath it. So, my unfortunate take on this is that it's probably going to move ahead to some degree. Maybe it won't be finalized all the way. We could have, I don't know, since it's a Japanese company, I don't know if it's exactly the same thing as with Activision Blizzard, where you have not that strong of unions and, anti-monopoly. I think you would call them trusts. But basically, the United States likes monopoly on things. And Japan, I can't really say for certain, not being familiar with their legal perspective on this. But when you have so much money like Sony, and you've especially had all these other issues hit Kadokawa, that might put enough pressure on them to just kind of, pawn it off to somebody else. Especially one that is making a good amount of sales with whatever it is they do, just not exactly the most friendly to the, people who work within the industries like gaming.
Yeah, so this feels like a long time coming, honestly. It is shocking to me that FromSoftware has avoided acquisition through PlayStation for as long as it has. The matchup just kind of makes sense. Now this deal through Kadokawa, because I guarantee you, talks of buying FromSoftware have happened for years, and they've been happening for years. I'm sure it happened pretty much as soon as Dark Souls popped off. I'm sure it started happening. And then of course, we had our PlayStation exclusive Bloodborne.
Demon Souls prior to that.
Yeah, but Demon Souls, it's been well documented that PlayStation didn't give FromSoftware the support that they wanted for that one. It's really the Bloodborne angle to where it really started to pick up. And then, of course, you saw success in Dark Souls 3, in Elden Ring, most notably, with 25 million copies sold of just that game alone. That's wildly impressive. I was looking at numbers. Elden Ring sold approximately 45% on PlayStation alone. That's the stake majority of sales are on PlayStation. So more people play on PlayStation than any other platform in the FromSoftware fandom, right?
In general, even, but FromSoftware, it's always been associated with Sony, even when it's not Bloodborne or an exclusive.
Right. So it's very, very impressive to me that this has not happened before. Now, I'm sure, I would assume a number was given from Kadokawa to PlayStation for FromSoftware. For whatever reason, PlayStation, Sony, whoever it was, said, not worth it. And they didn't go in for that number. But now this is where things get interesting to me. Sony has then instead said, well, FromSoft, we don't think we would benefit off of whatever price that was for just FromSoft. What happens if we buy the whole company? What happens if we take Kadokawa into under our wing as well? And that's where it gets really interesting. Sony already owns popular websites and animation bases such as Funimation and Crunchyroll.
Crunchyroll really is like their thing. I don't think
Yeah.
Funimation is really around anymore. I think it got shut down because it was
Is it
all.
not?
I think it was all consolidated behind Crunchyroll.
It might have. Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. So yeah, the anime side of Sony is already quite large and does bring in quite a bit of money as it is right now. So expanding on that with what Kadokawa can offer, I think sweetens the pot. So whatever the number was for Fromsoftware alone, Sony decided it wasn't worth it for that number and just for that studio. But that you add another $30-40 million onto the price tag and throw Kadokawa in there, now you've got Sony's attention. That's interesting to me. What was the number for Fromsoftware to where they felt that wasn't necessary, or to where they felt like that's not enough bang for their buck, right?
These things haven't really been confirmed outright, though, that there was a deal made. It's more just like kind of mutterings about it.
I guarantee you, they asked the question and a number was presented, and they didn't like that number, because otherwise they would have done it. They would have done it years ago, right? Now, of course, there's always the shot of like Kadokawa being like, "Hey, how do you feel about this?" And FromSoft heads being like, "No." There's always that chance, but at the end of the day, money's going to speak louder than artistic desires every single time.
Which is what's worrisome about something like this, because the games industry is in the faultiest place it's been in years, and it doesn't seem like the acquisition of all of these companies really does anything to help that. In fact, it seems like it's more of an exacerbation of the problem.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and so the fact that they only have 2% stake in Kadokawa shares kind of indicates that, maybe they don't have so much investment in trying to be in charge of the whole company. But it makes sense when you really factor in those things outside of gaming, particularly anime, and the fact that Sony's gone more in the direction of trying to do things with their IPs outside of just whatever market they originated from. Notably, The Last of Us has gotten a TV show, and a lot of energy behind that. And with Kadokawa having all of these different, anime-related IPs and manga IPs behind it, can allow them to either use the pre-existing games to kind of jump in and, make adaptations of fucking Sekiro, I guess. Not Sekiro. What the fucking... name a Sony game. God of War Ragnarok, I guess. Yeah, they're not going to. But they could realistically make an anime out of that if they have more of a resource to do so through Kadokawa. So the incentive is really there, and I just really hope something falls through. But as we kind of talked about, money is the incentive, and so the people who make these decisions are going to be looking at their own bottom line before any fallout that can come from it.
The question of layoffs in this scenario is interesting. How much would it fall on Fromsoftware versus just Kadokawa as a whole? Of course, there would be reductions in roles for things that they don't need, like things in marketing, things in analytics and business, and on the more just on the more business side of the thing. The artists themselves will probably be okay. I would be shocked to hear that a large portion of those would lose their jobs. But if this acquisition goes through, you can guarantee that there will be layoffs of some kind. A number will happen.
But even on the artistic side of things, look to the other FromSoft game that's kind of overlooked, Armored Core 6. That was a game that, by all intents and purposes, you wouldn't think to make. It really came from the developers themselves who wanted to do.
You probably wouldn't get another version. You probably wouldn't get any more of that.
Yeah, from under Sony.
Smaller things that they're willing to, take a chance on because they've got that padding from the Elden Ring money type thing.
Yeah,
that's not going to happen anymore.
It certainly won't happen under Sony.
Yeah, you're gonna get Elden Ringed and Bloodborne and Dark Souls to death.
Well, you would think Bloodborne to death, but it's been a long time since we've seen anything from that.
Something's up with the IP of that. I think Sony owns the IP, so I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know why they're not throwing it to a porting house just to get it working on a PlayStation 5 or anything like that. They don't see the value in it for whatever reason.
Yeah, and I believe Japan Studio worked on Bloodborne as well. They're not around anymore.
Did they?
I believe they did. Yeah. I played that game a ton, and I remember seeing it, but I'll double check myself.
Yeah, me personally, just because the business is going to be the business. So and the unfortunate parts of it are all true, but I'm so fascinated as to what that balance is between the cost of Fromsoftware, because you would assume, especially post Elden Ring, it's got to be upwards of $10 billion.
Yes.
So to throw in Katakawa on top of that, that's, I mean, we'll hear about real numbers later on, but it's got to be in the 30, 40, 50 billion dollar mark somewhere, something ridiculous like that, because like this has to be on the realm of like it feels like on the realm of almost like a Disney buying Fox. Now that went for like 70, 80 billion dollars or something something crazy like that. So I don't think it'd be quite to that number, but you know, you're definitely looking probably 40 plus for the whole lot. And so I'm just so curious as to why they feel like that's so much better for them, especially because they already have such a dominating place in the anime market, that to where they feel the need to like expand on that even more, and that's going to give them X dollar amount more on top of being able to throw Fromsoftware into the PlayStation Studios. Now, if they do go through with this acquisition, I think absolutely Fromsoftware now becomes a PlayStation Studio first party. I think you instantly cut off the branch of Xbox from Fromsoftware games. The question to me is, do they allow Fromsoftware games to remain PC day and date? I don't think so. But, you know, because they are at some point going to want to sell a PlayStation 6. And Elden Ring 2 exclusive to PlayStation 6, at least for a year, people will buy PlayStation 6s just for that.
The big issue with that is I recall that the sales of Bloodborne weren't as high as other FromSoft titles due to the fact that it was only on PlayStation.
Elden Ring has changed that conversation.
But Elden Ring was multi-platform.
Yes. And I'm telling you, Elden Ring has changed that conversation. Sekiro was multi-platform as well. Dark Souls 3 was multi-platform as well. They didn't do those numbers.
But compared to Bloodborne, which is what we're going off of, the only thing they did that was exclusive,
here's the thing. Elden Ring 2 will not sell 25 million copies if it becomes exclusive to PlayStation. Hands down. But will it sell more than Elden Ring 1 did on pure PlayStation numbers alone? I would say yes. I don't know what is 45% of 25? That's 13 million, something like that. 12 to 13 million just on PlayStation alone. Elden Ring 2 on PlayStation 5, PlayStation 6, whatever it is, exclusive to PlayStation, easily sells over 15 million copies.
But you're still limiting your numbers by just making it on a system that is kind of on the way out as well. So it doesn't seem so interested in keeping it locked down on their consoles alone for everything.
I don't think that factors as much as you think it does. Because who is calling me right now? You know I'm busy. I don't think that factors as much as you think it does right now. Because you also have to remember profit splits change now. So they would sell the number of copies sold would increase because players from other platforms would jump ship for that. It's going to happen. I don't foresee the hypothetical 12 million, 13 million copies of Elden Ring that's sold on PlayStation not selling again. That would be kind of crazy to me.
Yeah.
More people are going to jump ship, so more numbers are going to be sold on PlayStation. It's not going to be 25 million, but it's going to be more, and it's purely on PlayStation. So they're getting a bigger piece of the pie now. So profit alone on PlayStation is going to increase wildly because now they own it. You know, and Fromsoftware owns the IP of Elden Ring, so they own the IP. They don't have to split with a another publisher like Bandai Namco. The lion's share of the profit is going to go to whoever owns the thing. And if they own the thing, now their profit share goes from 20% of sales up to 80% of sales, give or take, however that business would come out. Yeah, that stands alone to make a lot of money for PlayStation. The thing that's impressive to me is it wasn't enough to just get Fromsoftware. That's what's interesting to me.
But
whatever the dollar amount is, it's not enough.
You are admittedly not going off of a fact that they did, in fact, make an offer from Fromsoft. It's just the likelihood that they did do that.
I guarantee you the conversations were happening. I guarantee you those conversations were happening. There's no way they weren't. With the relationship that they already had with those companies already had with each other. The fact that it's happening again now, only bigger. I guarantee you 100%. An offer was made and something didn't go through.
Either way, this would not be a good thing ultimately. If we're talking about
sure, but that's
that's
not interesting to me. Like in terms of a conversation, I mean, it is interesting in terms of like it's people's lives and livelihood, and I want them to continue to have jobs, and the consolidation of Fromsoftware would limit them creatively under the PlayStation banner. I would assume. You never know.
They could give them carte blanche to do whatever they want.
All of the last couple of first-party studios who have become first-party in the last generation or two have all said great things about their relationship with PlayStation. Now, of course, they're going to, but like, it doesn't outside of the layoffs. It doesn't feel like Insomniac has turned into a studio that they don't want to be.
Well, I mean, at the layoff point, they would just cut all the people that would have an issue to say with Sony.
I mean,
people left to be like,
yes and no. That's not how layoffs work. But it's not like Sony bought Insomniac and suddenly they became a different studio. We're still getting Ratchet and Clank games. We're still getting. We're of course going to get Spider-Man games for as long as they're going to make Spider-Man games. I get the feeling that Insomniac still wants to make Spider-Man. They've got their Wolverine deal going on. I get the feeling Insomniac is very excited about that. What is another example of a studio purchased by? Okay, Bungie would be Bungie's an interesting comparison there because Bungie, yes, acquired, but they had that weird deal where they were still like quasi-independent. But it sounds like as things have gone on, they've become more and more brought into the fold of PlayStation first party. I'm going to guess PlayStation Studios will never allow a deal like Bungie to ever happen again. I feel like that didn't really work out for them. It was probably Bungie had too much control and was guided in the wrong direction for whatever reason. And so now PlayStation feels more secure in having more control over that. So that will never happen again. And now you look ahead and you go, okay, Marathon. Still kind of under the umbrella of what Bungie is known for, but it is different. Is it an idea that they had themselves, or did PlayStation want a new IP and then this is a Bungie idea with a new IP or something? Did they want to do a Destiny 3? All of these are questions we don't know the answers to, so it's hard to hypothesize on that. But like kind of how you brought up with Fromsoftware under PlayStation, under Sony, you just feel like we'll take less cool chances. You won't see so many Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. You won't see so many Armored Core 6s. You probably won't see so many Shadow of the Erdtrees. And they'll be Elden Ring and maybe a new IP after that, and then there'll be that for the next couple of things. We're going to get into a talk of new potential IP and studio. I've never gotten the feeling that like PlayStation Studios are under this hard hammer of creative choices. I've always felt like PlayStation Studios have had creative freedoms to do what they want, but it has always been kind of brought under a guise of like, okay, well like let's do this. Not 100%, of course.
Biggest contention being the live service games.
The live service stuff, but to be fair, PlayStation invested in new studios to push that, or studios who were already familiar with a games as service model. You look at the Helldiver studio, you look at Bungie, you look at Firewalk and Haven Studios. Those are both new studios brought into the fold for the purpose of doing that. The only exception to that rule is obviously we had leaks of an Insomniac multiplayer game for Spider-Man. Didn't really work out in whatever. We also don't know what phase that was in. It seemed like it was mostly in just a kind of an idea, what does it look like phase. But most notably was the Last of Us multiplayer game. Now, I fully believe Naughty Dog wanted to do a multiplayer mode for The Last of Us Part 2. I fully believe their ambitions got the better of them and they wanted to make a bigger game. And then PlayStation co-opted that and turned it into part of their live service push, which then they did make the smart choice of saying, this isn't Naughty Dog, and we need to get away from this. And I also believe that game probably wasn't very good. Again, probably because that's not their bread and butter. So, it's a complicated thing. But, like...
You say that, but they made it a great multiplayer game. Their smaller version of it was one we played a lot of.
And the Last of Us Factions mode.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a mode. That's not a game.
Yeah, but it's kind of like the first baby steps towards being able to make that kind of game.
Sure, yeah,
I get the reasoning.
And they did it. They did it throughout the Uncharted series as well, and those were all fun and engaging and worth their weight. But like in today's era and model, you just don't get that anymore. And you wouldn't. I don't know if you can get that anymore on the scale that PlayStation Studios likes to work on. Yeah. So it's a complicated conversation with a lot of different layers to it. I still think Fromsoftware would put out excellent work, assuming, of course, everybody who's on that creative team who makes all of those great decisions stays on top on that team, whether through layoffs or choosing to leave because they don't want to be a part of PlayStation.
Yeah.
This could go down a dozen different roads, and each individual road is less interesting than if it just didn't happen. So like it would just definitely be better if it just didn't happen. So yeah, I'm 100% on that side of things.
One thing that I brought it up earlier, Japan Studio, I didn't know that they actually pitched the idea of Bloodborne to FromSoft, and then they made it. And apparently they gave them ideas on what exactly their idea for Bloodborne was. And so they weren't super, making all the systems of the game. They kind of the origin of it. So that's why they were accredited.
Japan Studio was a very creative team.
Yeah. Wonder what happened to them.
Well, they got shut down, and then they turned into Team Asobi. And wouldn't you look at that? Team Asobi's doing great.
The ones that is it really Team Asobi anymore? Or is it really Japan Studio when it's
it's the fragments of them. It's the biggest. There's other studios with Japan Studio like lineage in them, but this Asobi's the big one.
Mm-hmm.
It's how the business works. Moving on to topic number 2, our second topic of the day. That's the same thing, just in a different order. My first penny of the day. Sony set to compete against Nintendo in the handheld console market. Of course, this story, Connor, you wrote.
I did write it.
Yeah. And it is posted to Substack. So if you go to twopennygamesnews.substack.com, twopennygamesnews.substack.com, you can see all of the articles that Connor writes. Usually he'll write all of the news stories that we do in our entire thing, but time got the better of us, and we let up. So we pulled the Reuters article for the FromSoft. All of the rest of the stories we wrote ourselves, or Connor wrote himself. So subscribe to us on Substack. You can also get all the podcasts on there as well. All the stuff's there. Go subscribe over there. It's another great place to get great information and great news.
I'd appreciate it.
Bloomberg reports that Sony is in the early stages of development in creating a competitor to the Nintendo Switch, which has dominated the handheld console space for the last 7 years. Undisclosed sources say a console is years away from release, but Sony is attempting to overtake Microsoft in its endeavor to release a handheld console to market. The console is being modeled off the recently released streaming platform, the PlayStation Portal. Sony's previous dedicated handheld was 2012's PlayStation Vita, which sold only 15.82 million units worldwide over the course of its 7-year run. A marked decrease from its predecessor, the 2004 PlayStation Portable, 80.79 million worldwide sales numbers. The continued success of the PS Portal bolstered Sony's confidence in expanding further into the market. According to Circana Retail Tracking Service, the PS Portal sold 420,000 to 630,000 units, with fewer than 3% of PlayStation 5 owners purchasing the platform.
These mutterings about what exactly they're doing with it are pretty hush-hush. Sony obviously isn't trying to let people know exactly what's going on here.
Yeah, these are early conversations. Even in the I read the original Bloomberg article, and pretty much everybody was like, "Yeah, don't put me on the record." So yeah, this is pretty hush hush. This is stuff that they are not ready to talk about at all. Who even knows if it's actually going to come to market? But it feels like the way that kind of the industry is sort of trending. Microsoft, Phil Spencer himself recently said that there is some kind of Xbox handheld in the works right now. There is a Xbox marketing push right now where they're like, hey, everything's an Xbox. Your phone's an Xbox. All of these types of things. Anything with a screen can be an Xbox. And so, yeah, I think Nintendo saw the opportunity with where we are in the technology space and how we can now have full-fledged console games on the go, and they saw that early and capitalized on that early. We have seen other successes such as the Steam Deck from Steam, which has seen pretty good success. And the Rogue Ally, something like that. That one, in the similar realm. I think the success of the PS Portal, this feels like a passion project that greatly exceeded any expectations of what PlayStation was doing. I mean, they've said that it's outsold expectations.
They were looking for a small percentage of people to actually get it.
Yeah. So. I imagine they didn't think anybody was going to buy into it, and turns out a bunch of people have bought into it. And as a PlayStation Portal owner, I love my PlayStation Portal. I think it's fantastic. This reporting is also coming off the back of the PS Portal getting an update to where you can now stream games to the PS Portal. You don't even have to have a PlayStation 5, and you can stream PlayStation 5 games. You have to have a PlayStation account and obviously a subscription to PlayStation Plus. But there are select games that you can stream directly to your PS Portal without the use of a PlayStation 5 console. That's pretty cool. That's a new thing that they've added, or they've started a beta program recently for that. So they are seeing success, so much so to where they even incorporated the PS Portal in their 30th PlayStation anniversary push, where you saw the PlayStation 5, the PlayStation 5 Pro, the DualSense, the DualSense Edge, and the PS Portal all get new SKUs to celebrate the 30th anniversary. The fact the PS Portal is included in that says something, right? That shows us that, PlayStation is taking this serious. I think there's a real hunger from the PlayStation audience to be able to take their PlayStation games on the go. Now, in a handheld state, I don't think having a separate handheld ecosystem is going to work anymore. Your PlayStation Vitas, your Nintendo DSs, I don't think those can exist in the market anymore. I don't think anybody wants that anymore. Everybody wants something equivalent to a Nintendo Switch or a Steam Deck, right? And so PlayStation is considering that. Now, it's the tricky question of, they're saying this is years away from release. At that point, is it even connected to the PlayStation 5?
Oh, PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
Most likely not, I would think. I remember we covered topics relating to what the PS6 would be like and how it's kind of the end of the long jump of technology, since, advancements aren't being made as they once were. Kind of hit the limit on that for now, at least.
Yeah.
So, you've always talked about streaming before, and with the fact that they're doing that on the PlayStation Portal, it seems they'd want to use that as like a testing ground to make their ultimate handheld console. Because since it's a long way out, clearly, we can really go in a more radical direction than what we might understand right now. Because especially if they start putting more investments into trying to see how they can play around with the portable space, and Xbox doing it right there, which bolsters competition. It's one of the benefits of a capitalist-type system in this case. So with that...
And the Switch having a 7-year head start.
That as well. And I'm surprised it actually didn't start sooner, because we've known about the success of the Switch for quite some time now. But the Switch 2 is right around the corner, and now they're just deciding they want to jump into that space.
I think it's just really hard lessons learned from failed experiments such as the PlayStation Vita. And I think there's probably a conversation where PlayStation said, okay, well, let's try the VR route. I think if you jump back 6-7 years ago, VR seemed like it was going to be the new pillar, and it kind of isn't. It exists, it's there, it's gonna remain, it's gonna continue to exist, but just it's not gonna be a main thing. Like you're nobody's gonna say, oh, what do you game on? Oh, my Quest and only my Quest. No, I game on PC and I have a Quest.
I still see that having the ability to develop further to a more pillar, as you said, of the gaming community. But yeah, they're clearly not trying to go in for that. Because the PSVR 2 didn't sell well.
Has failed.
Failed.
Demonstrably. And it doesn't even feel like the PlayStation... it doesn't feel like PlayStation was dedicated to the PSVR 2 like they were the 1, which was weird.
Yeah.
And the PSVR 1 was successful. So yeah, I think it's just been a weird relationship. I don't think they've had the studios lined up for it. And again, that sort of... Having that pillar there, separating you from... the core experience really hurts you a lot. You need to have killer apps. Whereas this thing, whatever this handheld device is going to be, the killer apps are already there. God of War, Uncharted, Last of Us, Horizon, Ghost of Tsushima. It's already there. You already have something to play, right? That's the benefit of this type of device. Now, it's no secret. We've been talking about it for years. Consoles are just becoming PCs, right? They're just becoming more iterative and less, monumental jumps. The idea of not having backwards compatibility anymore is no longer an acceptable idea. You need to have backwards compatibility now. So, we hypothesize of when this thing came out. The PlayStation Vita is an interesting console because it came out in the middle of the PlayStation 3 life cycle. And so it is a version of PlayStation that's caught between two different identities, and that's probably why it didn't succeed, is because it still had old tendencies that, led to early failures of the PlayStation 3, and then, was about to get to the ideas that made the PlayStation 4 so successful, but just didn't quite get there yet.
PlayStation Vita shill right here. So take that with a grain of salt.
Just facts. Like, I can like a thing, but know that it failed.
Facts from a guy who's always tried to make it seem better than it actually is. Clearly, no one liked it, Tavin. Just give up.
No, nobody liked it, but it was still a good handheld console. It was a good console. But my point being, the idea of having a separate lineup of games for a handheld device is no longer interesting to gaming masses. I want to be able to take what's on my big screen TV in the living room. I want to be able to throw it up on a different device, whether that's through cloud saves, through streaming, or whatever, right? And I want to be able to take it into another room and lay down in my bed. Or I want to be able to take it on the go and play it while I'm waiting in line at a concert or something, right? Or at a house party that I don't have the Wi-Fi to or something like that.
One of the biggest aspects of the gaming market is the phone gaming market. And people like to do that because it's easy on your thing that you've used for tons of other things, like watching videos and whatnot. And so you're not really going to be trying to get those people there, so it does make sense. You just want to bring in gamers, which is growing. Obviously, people play games now more than they ever have before.
Yeah.
And that method of playing, it's better to lock down that crowd than try and bring over people who just want, easeability with playing games on the go. They already got that on their phones.
So, Connor, my question is, do we have it wrong for what next generation is? Is next generation just something of a Switch model, right? Where something I can take on the go or plug into my TV at all times. Are we more into the function than we are the fashion now? I would say no. PlayStation 6 is still going to be, hey, this box only goes to your TV, and it's the most powerful box in the market. You're going to see the prettiest games, all of the voxels, et cetera, all of the faces, et cetera, et cetera. But I do think there is room in the ecosystem of each of the big gaming companies to allow, yes, your big main console is your thing, but here's this smaller thing that's not as powered, so games aren't going to look as pretty. This, I would assume, is going to be on the power level of a Xbox Series S, I would assume, somewhere around there. And, probably a guarantee that all first-party games are going to work. And third-party games will come later if they choose to type work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think you now need to have a homogenous ecosystem where all of these devices talk to each other. It feels like we're getting to that point because if you look at the PlayStation 4 to the PlayStation 5, your account stayed there. Backwards compatibility. It makes it real easy to download PS4 games on your PS5. The only thing that's kind of complicated is things like trophies or, things that separate game progress. You know what I'm saying? So game saves, trophy progress, game progress, all of that needs to be able to transfer over very easily. How does that work? I don't know, because the cloud system has always been kind of finicky on PlayStation, so they would really need to kind of figure that out in a way to where all of my progress can transfer over, because you're not going to tell me PlayStation 6 games are not going to be available on PlayStation 5 for the first 4 or 5 years, right? Look how 4 to 5 has worked. Now the question is, Connor, even make something PlayStation 6 exclusive anymore? Or does it just become a PlayStation platform, much like Steam? And it's just, hey, this game does not function well on a PlayStation 5. If you want to play this game, you should upgrade, type deals. Much how a PC works. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do we have, does a generation even exist anymore? Or is it just, oh, I've got this version of PlayStation, I need to upgrade?
this is the time where it's most uncertain because, basically I'd have to bank on what technology comes in the future. As things are right now, it does seem that that's more likely just because, what is a PlayStation 6 game going to look like and act like compared to a PlayStation 5 game? Prettier, but at that point it's like, you don't need the game to be on the 6.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's 60 FPS and has ray tracing. Dope.
And those things can just be downgraded for a lower grade console, like the PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly a high bar issue.
Yeah, it's a very, very, very tricky place to be. Now, I still think it still has the advantages of being a console over being a PC game because PC is still a wide variety of SKUs that you have to plan for in terms of development. Whereas PlayStation, it's like, oh, we're still in like the PlayStation ecosystem. So it's still like some locked in, these are what we offer things. So you only have to build to these SKUs. So that's still easier to develop for. But now it's a matter of like, okay, but like they do have to kind of talk to each other a little bit. So you do have to build SKUs for our PS5 and our PS6. And we would really like it if you built a SKU that worked on this lower grade piece of hardware that you can take anywhere, right? But, I mean, Capcom's been working on putting all the Resident Evil games on mobile devices, on your phone.
Yeah.
And it's been working with pretty good success. So these things can happen, It takes time, but they'll happen. And eventually it'll just kind of become the standard anyway. Especially because a lot of the inner workings of these consoles are just the same inner workings of a PC anyway. So like, these things, they're just becoming more homogenous between the. So it's a very interesting idea. I hope it works out. I'm totally buying one day one if this happens, and it's good. It's good. It has to be good, right? Yeah. So like, it has to have an appropriate amount of storage. It has to run good enough, and I have to be able to transfer saves back and forth without a problem, right? So, however that functions, that needs to work the way it needs to work. But if it does work the way I want it to work, I'm in day one, 100%. Here's, I don't know, $300, $400.
I was thinking that range, yeah.
Probably 400, probably 450. Because you're still looking at a higher. You're still looking at a higher, even if it's on the level of an Xbox Series S, it's still going to be higher than whatever the Switch is outputting.
Yeah. The biggest issue I see with this, just to kind of have my final point, is in terms of mobile gaming. I especially think this myself. I got the Switch. I already have a PlayStation. Is there how does it separate itself from the Switch? Because that's the incumbent right now.
You get to play PlayStation games.
Yeah, but maybe someone's fine to just say like, well, I can play those all the time at home. Here, at least I'm playing something different. It's a whole other.
I would assume PlayStation will look better than a Switch.
I imagine as well. Well, Switch 2.
A Switch. No, I'm saying whatever this device is will look better than the Switch 2.
But again, that's because Nintendo doesn't really try to hit that high fidelity range, whereas PlayStation clearly always is trying to.
Okay, so that answers your own question then, doesn't it?
But I'm still saying there's two different types of console markets, and if you're going to be asking for, once again, money, which is not, it's easy for us to talk about it because we're in this space, and we'd be more willing to buy those consoles to get a kind of special take on it. But the average consumer, they'll be like, well, why would I want to get a portable version of this thing that's $450 when I can just play when I'm home and not have to, have this big buy-in?
Because you can.
But then again, like, do people really care that much when they're going through their day-to-day lives? Is that enough to, make people want to buy this new portable console?
For people who live in areas where your main mode of transportation is not driving yourself, yes. So if you live in a San Francisco, an LA, a New York, a Chicago, a Detroit, places where you have public transportation, yeah, they want this. They 100% want this. College students want this. Now, college student, do they have the money for that? Who knows? Probably. Like enough, or like enough to like want to take it on the go for them like that. Like, there's a huge market for this. Kids across the board. Like, I could very easily see a kid playing Astrobot on a PlayStation Portal device over a kid playing Pokemon on his Nintendo Switch. Just apples to apples. Yeah, like, what is the kid like more? Type of a situation. So I don't understand the Switch thing, especially because Nintendo drives away third-party publishers like they've got the plague. So you don't see Resident Evil on Switch anymore. Or I mean, you do, but like not as much. Like Resident Evil 4 remake is not on Switch, to my knowledge.
It might be.
I don't think it is. But it is. I mean, I say that, but it's also on my phone. But my phone is also more powerful than a Switch. Yeah, you look that up. But like that's the point of like, if I have this, then I know I'm getting the next Resident Evil on it, and I'll be able to take that wherever I go. I know I'll be able to take the next God of War wherever I want to go with that, or even if it's something that's Death Stranding. Death Stranding 2 is a great use case for this. Death Stranding is a game you want to take on the go. Because it's like, oh, yeah, sure, man. I'll run a couple routes. I'll deliver some packages in between, check off some side quests. Absolutely. I can't get that on my Switch. I can get it on my Steam Deck. But, what if I'm already incorporated in the PlayStation ecosystem? I want to live on PlayStation, all these different types of things. PlayStation's got a pretty good quality of life in terms of all of their devices between their headphones and their Portal and the PlayStation 5 and all of these things. The worst thing about the Portal is that it doesn't have Bluetooth capabilities. It has to, if you want to use headphones, you have to get the PlayStation things. Again, these are things that PlayStation has done forever. That's so annoying that they do it. But at the same time, I really love that my headphones connect to my PlayStation devices and my cell phone at the same time. And I don't have to choose through Bluetooth. That type of thing. So again, if you're somebody who just is already bought into the ecosystem, because I mean, Phil Spencer himself said they lost the worst generation because everybody built their digital libraries in the PS4, Xbox One generation. And so now PlayStation players are going to stick on PlayStation because that's where all their games are now. So if I'm a PlayStation player, oh, fuck, I can get my games on the go? Absolutely, I'm doing that.
I guess the only other thing is, it was not on Switch, by the way. But Microsoft, I think, has a really good shot at it as well, especially because they can carve their own identity out that's separate from just what's on their console.
As soon as cloud gaming becomes accessible for everyone, Xbox is really ahead of the curve. Really, really ahead of the curve.
Well, they've always in the past been, trailblazers and pieces of technology. So they could do it again with this one.
We're going to have to find out.
It's the modern day arms race.
Moving on to topic number 3, Connor. My second penny of the day. Gaming actor Troy Baker to perform in Naughty Dog's new game. Baker's last collaboration was in 2020's The Last of Us Part 2. In an interview with GQ, Troy Baker revealed to be involved in the next single-player video game from famed developer Neil Druckmann. Describing Neil Druckmann as a close friend, Baker's close association with the Naughty Dog head has led to the casting of Baker in a multitude of releases by the developer. Although the role, like the game, is unknown, Druckmann's description of him as, quote, a demanding actor indicated, like his past roles, that it'll be a performance to look out for. Baker is to star in Indiana Jones and the Great Circle as the titular character, and will afterwards appear in BioShock director Ken Levine's new game, Judas, prior to the unnamed Naughty Dog project. Baker means to put a different spin on the character of Jones, famously played by Harrison Ford. Quote, I stopped trying to be Harrison Ford, says Baker. I just wanted to be Indiana Jones. There was also a quote I saw from Neil Druckmann saying, oh, yeah, he'll work with Troy Baker anytime. So, really, okay, cool. There's a cool story here. All right, Troy Baker's in the next Naughty Dog game. Surprise, surprise. Hey, Nolan North's probably going to be in there too. Hey, Laura Bailey's probably going to be in there too. Fuck it. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if Pedro Pascal was in there too. Yeah, I would. That'd be very shocking, actually. The thing about this for me is I think this allows us to hypothesize on what is Naughty Dog's next game. I don't think it's Last of Us Part 3. Last of Us Part 3 is coming, but I don't think that's what it is. Neil Druckmann has also described how, Naughty Dog as a studio does not want to be the Last of Us studio forever. And if I were to guess, if I were somebody working at that studio, I'd be kind of bummed out that my Last of Us multiplayer game didn't meet the market. I've been working on that for a long time. And also Last of Us is so heavy, and I don't think Naughty Dog is necessarily like a team that loves to stay in heavy, like super dark worlds all the time. This is the Uncharted studio, right? Like, They still have so much DNA and lineage in Uncharted, which is a bright, poppy, fun world to be in with, charismatic characters that I just don't think they want to be in the ultra-violent, ultra-dark, ultra-depressing, heavy Last of Us all the time. So if I were to guess, we got a new Naughty Dog IP on the way.
Yeah, and it's been a long time coming. Druckmann wouldn't say those kinds of comments about not wanting to be the Naughty Dog studio and then go on for his next game to be The Last of Us game. Yeah. They've gotten comfortable in recent years. You don't really, Uncharted, Last of Us, what really else is there? Did they do something else at some point?
Nope.
No, that was it. Yeah, so, people have been looking for something new. I was afraid they were going to start going back into the Uncharted territory, but I don't think it's that either. It's entirely new.
I think we're doing new IP. I think it's time for a new direction at Naughty Dog.
Yeah.
I loved The Last of Us Part 2. I'm interested to see what they would do for Last of Us Part 3. But I don't need it right now. We can stew on that one for a while. Now, how long? I don't know, because it's already been 4 years since your last game, Naughty Dog. Where you at? Mm-hmm. And I don't predict that this next game will be out anytime soon. We're probably looking another 3 years, I would assume.
With their development cycle?
Yeah. Until we get a new Naughty Dog game, especially because they were supposed to have a game out this year, and it didn't happen. So Naughty Dog is going to be a while, and that's unfortunate because they're a very talented studio. What could it be? I don't know. Anything. I would assume it's still going to be in that sort of action adventure genre, but they've been playing around with mechanics and ideas and things for a long time, and a lot of their games, their last couple of games, have all incorporated new things. Uncharted 4 had dialogue choices. Why?
Change things up.
You never know. That might be the laying the seeds for something that we would never expect to come from Naughty Dog.
I keep thinking of a sci-fi game. Just because the setting of sci-fi would allow them, I feel, to do weird shit.
Yeah.
Like, with mechanics and whatnot.
I keep thinking they're going to do it. Yeah, I keep thinking they're going to do a sci-fi RPG. I don't know why I think that. I don't know why I feel that way, but I keep feeling like they're going to do that,
They do like their narratives, though. Despite all, they just having like that strong central narrative.
How great would it be to get a sort of BioWare-styled Naughty Dog game?
That'd be cool.
That would be interesting, right? Like their level of dialogue writing and so forth. Now, the only thing to fly in the face of that is Naughty Dog traditionally has always had their narrative set in stone.
Yeah.
The player agency means nothing, in a Naughty Dog game. As you progress through the game, those beats happen no matter what. So, but to see them break away from that would be interesting. What are they doing? I don't know. Mm-hmm. Could be a million things. Could be another Uncharted. That's a weak answer. Could be Last of Us Part 3. I think that's also a weak answer. And I also don't think you tap Troy Baker for Last of Us Part 3. I also don't think Troy Baker's playing a titular character or a leading protagonist here. I think he's going to be in the game. He'll be a character. But what are we looking at? Are we looking at a Nolan North playing David in The Last of Us Part 1, type level thing where it's just, this is a character who's with us for a few chapters and then leaves, whether, the character gets killed or it's a companion piece character or whatever. It could be whatever, right? Or it could be the protagonist. Who knows? But yeah, it does not surprise me that Neil Druckmann is continuing to hire his friends. I would too if I were Neil Druckmann, listen, these guys are dependent. They're dependable. They're consistent and they're talented. Yeah, I'm going to keep using them. Why wouldn't I? Especially when I already have such a great repertoire with them as it is. So, not the biggest story in the world, but it's interesting.
I guess with that, they don't really want to do new things if they're just hiring the same actor. Sounds like they're pretty stale.
No, they want to do new things. They definitely want to do new things. And speaking of maybe doing new things, maybe not so much, Connor, we're going to move on to our final topic of the day, your second penny of the day. Take it away, my friend.
Final Fantasy VII Rebirth Director talks trilogy's future. In a series of interviews with UK newspaper The Daily Star, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth Director Naoki Hamaguchi had much to say regarding the franchise's continuation. With the prior installment, Final Fantasy VII Remake, receiving a DLC a year after its release, fans speculated if and when Rebirth would follow suit. Hamaguchi, however, put any theorizing to rest. Quote, "I understand it completely, but I think, from my perspective, what the fans really want to see the most is not necessarily DLC," Hamaguchi said. They want to see the third part of the series as quickly as possible. So that's why we've decided not to focus the development resources on creating additional extra episodes for DLC at the moment. End quote. While Hamaguchi didn't resolutely deny the possibility of DLC, it's safe to say no major additional content similar to Final Fantasy VII Remake Intermission will be forthcoming. The focus is clearly on Part 3 of the trilogy, and Hamaguchi is already taking feedback from Rebirth players on how the franchise might be improved. Quote, "One thing perhaps that maybe needs looking at is that there was a certain number of people who said there were too many minigames in Rebirth. and ultimately I can see their point of view. We'll work out how maybe we can cut it down to maybe a bit more manageable size for the group of players who quite rightly said that maybe there was too much for them end quote. While some elements will undoubtedly change, the fast-paced tactical action gameplay will remain. Hamaguchi reflected on this shift from Final Fantasy VII's classic turn-based combat to the one seen in Remake and Rebirth. Quote, "First of all, I'm not going to say that turn-based is better than action-based or the other way around," he prefaces. Quote, "I will say that in terms of the advantages and disadvantages between them, having a more action-based style, it's all down to the input, really. The idea that if you push the button, your actions are immediately reflected on screen, which generally leads to a higher level of immersion," end quote. The game's positive Metacritic score from both critics and users indicate players are none too concerned with this switch, but with Part 3 signaling the end of the original game's story, some wonder what lies beyond the horizon. Hamaguchi has previously stated has his focus on the third game's release, but has given thought to how the world of Final Fantasy VII will proceed. Quote, "There's definitely a call out there to see other spotlights on other parts of the world and the universe. Different characters, so I'd like to maybe switch to looking at them in a different way after we've got the third game out." So, at least they're trying to get us that third part.
You're not getting a Vincent DLC.
No.
Like surprise, surprise, Stay in Rebirth for a second.
Yeah.
Are we getting anything new out of Rebirth?
I don't think so.
Really? I can see some stuff.
They could do something, but Square Enix being as big of a company as it is and always having something going on, not just Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
And
3.
Square Enix is focused on trimming down their catalog to where they're putting out more impactful games and so forth. But I think they're kind of stuck in this Final Fantasy VII Remake era where they have to finish the trilogy.
Yep.
So they're like, all right, well, yeah, let's just get this over with now. I don't know. As far as Rebirth goes, I mean, something as small as some new skins or something could be fun. Like, yeah, let me dress Cloud and Gang up in different costumes and stuff like that.
Well, they do at the it's called Ever Crisis, the mobile thing. They have a lot of I don't know if they're still rolling them out now, but they at one point were consistently rolling out new costumes for the cast, and so they have a framework for doing that there.
The models are there. I think the models in Ever Crisis are different than the ones in Remake.
They are, but it's the same style of clothes that they can just
just
on
kind of
characters,
retool and figure out that the design is already there, so you can just kind of put it in the game.
But the fact they haven't done that yet, now almost coming up almost on a year because it released in February. So it's,
who knows? I mean, but we still have a PC release coming, right? Or an expected PC release to come, around the year mark, like how we got with Remake. So, and we just had the upgrade, the port to PlayStation 5 Pro, which Rebirth has been sort of the key title in that, in sort of showing off the differences between the original and the Pro. So yeah, I think there's still plenty of opportunity to be like, hey, there's a reason to come back to Rebirth. We have costumes, we have new materia, we have new VR challenges or something small, something that wouldn't be super substantial, but something that maybe you could just kind of enjoy and wet your teeth in. Here's more Queen's Blood battles or something, or something along those lines, something small. I don't think you're not getting new storylines. You're not getting new. I mean, you don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say not getting new storylines.
Most likely,
because this team likes to take. If a leaf falls off of a tree, there's a story for it. In these games. I'm interested in that they are next. I think they are 100% pretty much focused on Part 3 now. I think it's a smart move. I don't need to dilly-dally anymore. I don't need to wait any longer. Or I don't need to wait longer than I need to for it, right? Let's get this kind of over with. I think there's a hunger to see the end from new and old fans. People want to know what happens next.
No longer in limbo about what's going on.
Yeah. We just want to understand what the whole purpose and journey of this thing is. No spoilers, but choices were made? Question mark? Maybe they weren't. Who knows?
Open-ended, to say the least.
Yeah. So, I think we all, as fans of it, just kind of want to see the end. I think them as storytellers want to get to the end. There's just so much, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Hey, they got to go underwater.
Yes.
And probably to space And with how they've been designing Remake and Rebirth, space is going to be more than just a quick, oh hey, look, we're here now. Like, it's going to be a whole thing.
That's connected to like the truth of the universe in Final Fantasy, like cosmic ideas of like the greater cosmos.
Connor, I genuinely think we're going to the moon, and there's going to be a moon level. And like it's going to be a whole dungeon on the moon.
And this is kind of a spoiler, but it's old. Final Fantasy IV's like secret main villain is the moon. So they've been there once. They fought it once. They can go there again.
Final Fantasy's so weird.
Crazy. Yeah.
Anyways, I think it's time for part 3. I think everybody wants part 3. I don't think like what are we gonna dilly dally with? Like,
yeah, touching on
also where we left off in the story. Like, we gotta go.
Yeah, I know. And part of the the thing I like about these games, and you like as well,
yeah,
basically everybody else, is the combat system.
100%.
So I'm of course the easiest way to do like extra content, if they were really to go like in the direction of an intermission, I don't think they are. But they do have 2, other characters that are about to be unveiled in the third one.
You wait, yeah. You don't spoil that.
Yeah, but at the same time, Vincent does have things that have gone on in the past that they would possibly be interested in exploring. This is all just like theoretical. I don't think they're going to do it, and I don't think they should either.
Yeah. Why? When it could be a whole level in Game 3.
Exactly. So beefing up 3 is what matters more than doing DLC here. But I'm really looking forward to seeing how this combat system is used in.
You don't need to don't beef it up that much. You can beef it up, but Rebirth is really big.
Oh, this guy. Oh, I didn't mention this. He did apologize for the platinum trophy and said, "Hey, it was a bit much.
It's a lot.
I'm gonna make that easier.
It's so fucking much."
That's the only reason you said it's too packed, Tavin. Only reason. You engaged with it more than you needed to. Yeah,
the VR missions.
Yes,
there's so many.
But I hope that combat system is taken further in other Square Enix titles and other Final Fantasy titles because they really hit gold with it. I was actually thinking about it not that long ago. It very much is similar to combat systems in Dragon Age Origins and, more importantly, Final Fantasy XII. I'd have to go back and play those games to, really see if that was a lot of the inspiration for Final Fantasy VII Remake's combat. But it's kind of a similar framework where you give directions on what you want your teammates to do. Obviously, this one being a lot more like proactive in the action. The tactical aspect of it, of choosing spells, getting up your ATB score through doing normal attacks, is a lot more similar to that than most
I don't know
of
if Dragon Age has so much to do with it. I mean, I don't know about Final Fantasy 12, but I don't know if Dragon Age has. Because I assume I don't know, I'm talking out of my ass, and you wouldn't be able to help me with this either. I would assume Dragon Age combat is an evolution of what you see in KOTOR. And that's not
okay.
That's not the line we're driving from.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
The 12 point, though, I did remember that Hamaguchi did work on Final Fantasy 12. I can't remember what his role was, but that was the first time he worked on a Final Fantasy game. So it also would make sense he carried that a little bit over.
The direction that they've been going in, like for a while, right?
But they did 15 and 16. Well, at the same exact time, we're getting Rebirth and Remake. So it seemed like they were juggling between,
I think the message has been clear on 16's combat. Like I guess not, because a lot of people did enjoy or have enjoyed it and did like it, but I think the core fan base generally was not in favor of how actiony 16 was.
Yeah.
So yeah, if we are to ever get a 17, which I assume we would, but we're getting kind of egregious with these numbers.
No, we're not. I mean, that's the cool part of it. It's just like it's there at 17 now. Let's get it up to 20.
I don't want to.
Well, then know what you'll have? You can have games like Stranger of Paradise.
That's where I'm thinking. I'm like, oh, why don't we just make it that? I don't know. But then like, what does the Final Fantasy name mean anymore? And then I don't know. Has the Final Fantasy name ever meant anything?
It has. It saved Square Enix, Fromsoft.
Right.
Listen, how many Roman numerals are there?
I don't know.
There's
100?
A lot. If there's 100, go that far up. The moment you no longer have Roman numerals, that's where I'll nix it. Till then, keep on getting higher.
I don't think Final Fantasy is making it to 25.
Oh, we'll see.
Well, I mean, we will, or maybe we won't.
I guess not. Yeah, could end.
Who knows? It'll be interesting. No, yeah, Final Fantasy 7. Let's see the end of it. Are there too many mini games in Rebirth?
I didn't think so, but other people seem to think.
I mean, there's a lot. but most of them are not necessary. There are many that you do not come across in the main plot.
Yeah.
And so I kind of liked having the ability to just continue to exist in the world of Final Fantasy after rolling credits on it and, discovering all these new storylines and things like that. Is there too much? Maybe, but I would say instead of getting rid of mini games, we get rid of sort of some of the like filler things like battle encounters or like towers, we've scoped out the world now. So ideally you wouldn't need to go scan towers anymore, ideally, or, things like that. But like, I don't know. I mean, if we get less mini games, but they're all better quality, I would prefer that personally.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, Rebirth ran the gambit of quality in terms of mini games. There were some god awful ones, but then there were like some that were better than the main game.
Frog. I like the frog one.
The frog one. That was one of them. Yeah, Connor, good job. Anyways, Final Fantasy VII. Let's get to the end. Mm-hmm. Much like how we're going to get to the end of this podcast here, ladies and gentlemen, because this has been your episode of the Two Penny Gamescast. Remember, you can catch us every week, youtube.com/@2pennygames, Tuesday, 8 a.m. Central Time, and on mainstream podcast services of your choice. Subscribe to 2pennygamesnews.substack.com. Links, of course, for everything are in the description down below. And remember, next week, you will see the return of the Two Penny Game Club. That's right. Our review of Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty is happening next week. So make sure you gear up, play it alongside with us, and let us know how you feel about it down in the comments below.
Watch us drink beer.
Until next time, have a great time. And Connor, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye.